not spare, neither will I have pity. And though they cry in mine ears with a loud voice, yet will I not hear them. Now, this happened to our fathers because they forsook Yah. Turned the temple where he said, I put my name there, into a house of idol worship. And were worshiping the sun, the moon, the stars, Christmas, and all types of abominable things which they were not taught to do, which the first commandment said, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Now, what does this have to do with the world? They were never given these things. What are they doing? You see, brothers and sisters, the chosen people of Yah, according to the book of Zechariah, the prophet Zechariah, chapter 2. You can look this up when you get a chance, because we got a lot of scriptures to look up today. And so I want to tell you, go look that one up. Zechariah chapter 2 says that his chosen people, Israel, which are the people taken from West Africa in slavery, are the apple of his eye. And he's not going to allow the heathen to just run roughshod over us without any retribution. He himself is going to deliver retribution. And because of that, what they have been doing to us and teaching us to worship false gods, to eat things sacrificed unto idols, and to commit fornication, which they have teach us to do these things, he's going to bring punishments on them. And they are bearing witness, even now, they are bearing witness when they say, the black man in America has been treated terribly. The black man in America has been exploited. The whole world is saying this right now. Don't get used to it, because it's not going to last. But there's a reason for it. The world is bearing witness. See, the Bible tells us, the Most High's Messiah, the Messiah taught us that there's nothing that's going to be hid that's not going to be exposed. And the Apostle Shaul tells us the similar thing in the book of Ephesians when he said, the unfruitful works of darkness are to be exposed. We are in an information age. Everybody understands. All you got to do is Google stuff. I mean, everything is out there. And so, brothers and sisters, people are bearing witness. They bore witness that Catholic priests are pedophiles. People bore witness to that, yet they still go to those masses. People bore witness to the fact that a lot of these Protestant preachers are homosexuals, but they still go there and give them their money. People bore witness to the fact that a lot of these people steal their money and get caught in tax schemes and investment schemes and all this, yet they still give them their money. They're bearing witness so that if you continue to follow their sins after the witness has been born, it's on you now. So now the world is bearing witness that we who know we are the true Hebrews have been exploited, oppressed, murdered. The world is bearing witness and understands for over 2 centuries we worked for free here, and we've never been compensated for that. Let me just say something about this recent murders and the police officers they're arresting and the citizens, so-called, that they're arresting that commit these murders. Even if they convict all of the parties involved with the murders that we've seen, if they convict everybody, say from the Eric Garner and the Tamir Rices and all of the people that were killed, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna, and then there's now Mr. Lloyd, and all the others, if they were to convict all the people involved, it would mean nothing. Yes, those people would be punished, but it would not stop the hatred. As a matter of fact, those that hate us, that from those classes of people and those spirits, would look at all those people that go to jail or go to electric care or get the lethal injection as martyrs, and it would just make them more hatred of us. You see, a law from man cannot change the hearts of the wicked. They put laws before. The civil rights laws, that's what they're going to get these boys in jail over. Voting rights laws, that didn't change the fact that they hate us. They didn't bring us here to be citizens or Americans. We might be born here as citizens, but we're not Americans. If we were Americans, we wouldn't need no Black Lives Matter. If we were Americans, there would be no need for marches. If we were Americans, none of us would be killed by the hands of a police officer. But we're not Americans. We need to wake that up. We're not Americans. You don't have to fight to be an American if you're born here. And especially if your parents built the place. But we do. Why is that? We're not Americans. We're Hebrews. We belong to the Most High. His mark is on us. Been on this from the time of Abraham. Been on this. Not for us to get money like them Ashkenazis that run CBS, NBC, ABC. Not them Ashkenazis. See, y'all get messed up because you got caught up in the Eurocentric thought where you're thinking money is everything. It's not about the money. Your blessing is not in greenbacks. The Most High does not need greenback. What is a greenback? It's a tree that's been chopped down and made into a piece of paper that they put certain prints on and they place value on. It's not even backed by gold. And y'all thinking that because them Ashkenazis have a lot of it, that they're blessed. Oh, sure. They're blessed by the prince of darkness. It's not about money. There are things way more valuable than money. Let me give you a basic one. There are people that will give every dollar they have to be healthy. There are people that are dying racked with cancer to give every dollar they have. You told them tomorrow, all that cancer be gone. And that's a small blessing. The Father's spirit of perfect righteousness that causes us to overcome all sin and break every chain of Satan that he holds on us. This is the most valuable thing in the earth. And most people don't recognize it. Now, when these things were taking place in Ezekiel chapter 8, the Most High was taking note of those that were sighing and crying against it. And he marked them in their foreheads. It's the same mark that means etching, but it's not a literal mark. Just like Revelation chapter 13, the mark of the beast is not a literal mark. It's a representation of where you stand. It's a representation of who you're worshiping. It's a representation of whose spirit controls you. And he made that notation in chapter 9. Take a look at it for a few verses in chapter 9. Ezekiel chapter 9 from verse 1. And down to verse 8. From verse 1 to verse 8. This is continuing from chapter 8, actually. He cried also in mine ears with a loud voice, saying, cause them that have charge over this city to draw near, even every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate, which lies toward the north, every man with a slaughter weapon in his hand. And one man among them was clothed with linen, with a writer's inkhorn by his side. And they went in and stood beside the brazen altar. And the glory of the Most High of Israel was gone up from the cherub, whereupon he was, to the threshold of the house. And he called to the man clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And Yahweh said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. Set a mark on the forehead for those that cry about what they're seeing, for those that cry about what they're bearing witness of in terms of wickedness. Set a mark in the forehead. And to the others, he said in my hearing, the ones that didn't get that mark, not Yah's mark. And to the others, he said in mine hearing, go ye after them through the city and smite. Let not your eye spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. And he said to them, defile the house and fill the courts with the slain. Go ye forth. And they went forth and slew in the city. And it came to pass while they were slaying them, and I was left, that I fell upon my face and cried and said, ah, Most High Yahweh, wilt thou destroy all the residue of Israel in the pouring out of thy fury upon Jerusalem? Now the cry is going to be, will you destroy everybody? Is there any man that's going to be left? Remember, brothers and sisters, let me remind you, there were only 8 people on board Noah's ark. At a time when men lived 900 and 800 years and had generation after generations of children. The earth was filled with people, and only 8 people were on board that ark. We need to remember that. We need to remember that. I'm going to show you The secret here, the Bible's going to reveal it. I'm not sure. I'm going to read it. The Bible's going to reveal to you the secret of knowing you're on your side. And he's going to tell you where the world is going wrong right now. The main issue with the Israelites first. First, before we do that, let me just review with you very quickly the Bible definition of the gospel, because the first angel's message, which is being sounded right now, talks about an everlasting gospel. So therefore, let us look at the gospel first, and then we can understand what's going on there. Or does that make sense? So let's look at the gospel first, then we can understand what's going on in that first angel's message. Since I'm saying to you that the message, the sound of the trumpet of the first angel, that messenger has already begun. This year it started. Let's read this. Romans chapter 1, verses 16 and 17. And this is very important in terms of the message of the three angels of Revelation 14 and the message of the angel of Revelation 18, which is the same as the second angel of Revelation 14. But we're going to talk about that. So here, Romans chapter 1, verse 16 and 17, the Bible definition of the gospel. The Bible definition of the gospel. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Messiah, for it is the power of Yah unto salvation unto everyone that believeth, to the Hebrew first, and also to the Gentile. For therein is the righteousness of Yah revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. So, brothers and sisters, the gospel is Yah's power to cause his righteousness to be revealed in the receiver. Therefore, it goes without saying, the receiver of the gospel has a desire to bring glory to his Father or her Father in heaven. And the Messiah is used in this purpose to cause us to receive Father's Spirit and give glory to the Father. How do we give glory to the Father? Fear Yah and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For Yah shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. And what does the Most High require of thee but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God? He wants us to obey him. And obedience can only come as the weight of sin is taken off of us and the Spirit of Yah is placed on us. That's where obedience comes from. You can't just will yourself to obey. Then we would not need Messiah. We're falling from grace. The grace of Yah is the power of the gospel in his Spirit that causes us to reveal his righteousness. We need to receive his Spirit. Yah is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him, if you're going to worship him, in spirit and in truth. And please take note, it goes to the Israelite first and to the Greek also. Why is that? Because the Greek will get it from the Hebrew. Paul was sent to the Gentiles. The Apostle Peter, who we call Kapha in his Hebrew name, he was sent to the Hebrews. But he was the first one to bear witness of Messiah to the Gentiles. And even he was shocked, because when he began to bear witness, the Spirit came down on them Gentiles. There's no coincidence. They were asked, the angel told Cornelius, go get this man. He's going to teach you. Why didn't the angel, who has power and who obviously knows the scriptures better than any man, why did he teach Cornelius? Because it's not for them to do that. He said, go to Joppa and get Peter, and he's going to teach you. Hasn't changed. So you want to know the truth? You better get it from the mouth of a Hebrew. That in itself is going to be difficult for the Gentiles, the sons of Japhet, your so-called white people, to humble themselves, to hear everlasting truth from the people they've oppressed. That takes a humbling, and that is a miracle. And there's going to be those that do it. There are. I've baptized some of them myself. There are those that do it. But they are in the vast, vast, vast minority. Most of these sons of Japhet don't want nothing to do with that. They don't want to hear that. And even some of those, they'll listen to the gospel from a black man, but they'll listen to it if he's talking about white Jesus. See how hard it's going to be for some of them? I'm already showing you. The word is showing them. It's going to be hard. Not impossible now. They can humble themselves, come to the truth, and a lot of them will, but not the majority of them. Their pride, their racial pride is going to stop them from doing that. It's going to cause them to be lost and destroyed. Revelation chapter 14. Well, on our way, let's stop at chapter 7 real quick on our way to 14. Revelation chapter 7, and we know about the 144,000. I'm always talking about them. It's one of the themes of the ministry the Most High given us of the Raw Hebrew Remnant Ministry is the 144,000. And the theme, the most important doctrine he's given to me is righteousness by faith. Most important doctrine. Righteousness, because the spirit of righteousness is the spirit of the Father. He's a spirit of perfect righteousness. His covenant is a covenant of righteousness that's a reflection of himself. Messiah is the word made flesh. He's the covenant made flesh. He is righteousness personified. That is the theme. And for us to be obedient and to render obedience that the Father will accept. You don't just accept anything. Even Messiah, when he come out the tomb, he told Miriam, don't touch me yet. I have to go to my Father. Why did he have to go to his Father? Because he had to have his sacrifice accepted. Messiah had to have his sacrifice for sin accepted. And the Father obviously accepted it, but it just goes to show you, he don't just accept any offering. If you recall, he rejected Cain's offering and accepted Abel's offering. He rejects a lot of offerings because people think they can just come at him any kind of way. You can't just come at him any kind of way. What you got to come at him with is a heart filled with sincerity and humility. You got to come at him when you being real. Don't you? You see, people start to lie so much, they start to believe their own lies. That's what happens a lot of times, especially, unfortunately, with the Caucasian race, especially in the United States of America. I'm just speaking real. They've been hiding and trying to disassociate themselves from the horrible things they've done to black people in this country for so long that they have trouble admitting it. They have trouble to actually say what they've done. They have trouble seeing it for what it is. They have trouble doing that. And that's from centuries of willful ignorance. But fortunately for some of them, some of the young people are rising up. Some of these millennials, these Generation X, Z, and Y, Generation X and Y and Z or whatever, they're ones rising up and they're being more honest than their fathers were. Some of them. And that's where their hope is. These older people, it's going to be hard pressed to be saved. Hard pressed. And white Jesus is not going to help them. You know why? Because he doesn't exist. And they're not being sincere and honest about how the fathers have acted. Revelation chapter 7. I'm only going to look at verse 4 for today, because we read verses 1 to 4 many times. But let's look at verse 4. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Now, let me break this down for you. Obviously, it said, we just read it, of all the tribes of the children of Israel, 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. So the 144,000 are made up of 144,000 Israelite men. Israelite men. Now, at the time this was given, at the time of the sixth seal that it was opened, and we believe it was opened between 1843 and 1844 based on prophecy. At that time, the angel came with a seal in his hand. It illustrated it in the first 4 verses of Revelation chapter 7. And then he was ascending with the seal. In other words, he came down to seal people, but he didn't do it. And why? Because John said, I heard them. In other words, they didn't exist yet. They were going to exist. John heard the number. He didn't see them. He heard the number. Because they didn't exist in 1843. They exist now. And that was a warning from the Father saying, They're coming, and I'm waiting for them, and I'm going to seal them, and this is over. Because at that time, Messiah went from the holy place where Revelation starts into the most holy place, where the final work of perfecting his people takes place. The most holy place, or the Day of Atonement in Leviticus chapter 16, was for the putting away of all sin. The gospel of the Messiah puts away all sin. That's why the doctrine of righteousness by faith is so important, because it causes the receiver of that truth to overcome all sin. Because Father demands sinlessness from his people. You don't have to come to him sinless. He knows we're all sinners. But by the time he puts that seal on us, there'll be no more sin. And it's not because of how much hard work we've done either. It's because of how we're trusting in Father's spirit of perfect righteousness. Because that causes us to overcome. It's not something we can earn or deserve. That's why it's called grace. What purchases it is Messiah's blood and our humility and repentance. That's what purchases it. And our humility and repentance. And some people get it confused with the Christian grace. The Christian grace don't require no obedience. That's a lie. Brothers and sisters, let me explain something to you. Matter of fact, let me look this up right now for you, because people get caught up in cheap, what we all know to be cheap grace. Cheap grace. That means, like, for example, or cheap religion in general. What do I mean by that? What I'm saying is, brothers and sisters, for example, if I grow a long beard and put a bandana on my head with Hebrew letters on it, that don't make me a Hebrew. That don't change my character. That means I theoretically understand the name of the Father, but theoretically, that don't mean nothing. That don't mean anything. And cheap grace from Christianity means I just raise my hand and I trust in Jesus and I'm saved. That's cheap. In the Christian grace, in the Christian gospel, there is no repentance needed. There is no change in character, not any permanent change. And you're just saved because he loves you. No, brothers and sisters. No. The Father requires a change in character. And he understands we cannot change our own character. The Bible says, can an Ethiopian change his skin, or a leopard his spots? So shall ye do good, who are accustomed to do evil. So no, we can't change ourselves, but we can submit ourselves to the Father in the name of the Messiah and have his spirit change us. His spirit can change us. We don't have power to change us. You're trying to obey his commandments because you know we should obey his commandments, right? You're trying to obey his command, but you can't do it, right? You're having trouble. You can't do it. You can't obey his commandments the way you want to. Why? Because you're trying to do it in your own strength. And that's what Romans 10 is talking about. He said he's prayer. Shaul said his prayer to Yah was that the Israelites would be saved, because he said they have a zeal for the Most High, but not a calling to knowledge, because they're going about to establish their own righteousness. See, brothers and sisters, you can't do that. Mm-mm. 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 Now, the word name, where it says the Father's name, or blessed are they that know thy name or call upon thy name. It's not saying Jesus or Lord or God. No. And it's not even just Yahweh or Yah, because we know his name. It's more than that. Notice it's 8034. I wanted to look it up just to read it for y'all. 8034 in the Hebrew Concordance. It means, by implication, honor, authority, or character. Honor, authority, or character. That's what the word name means in the Hebrew. And when you see the word name with respect to the Father, that's what he's talking about. Character. Brothers and sisters. Because the whole thing about sin is it changes our character into the character of rebellion from Asatan. That's what sin does. Sin is a transgression of Yah's law. It's rebellion against him, against his spirit, against his righteousness, against his truth. That's what sin is. So he's going to overcome sin in us by his spirit, but we have to submit ourselves, surrender ourselves to his spirit, admitting that we can't do it ourselves. Just, you know what? The alcoholics got it better than most Christians and Hebrews. Yeah, they do. They got it down better. They don't realize it. When an alcoholic has to go into an AA meeting, or a drug addict has to go to an NA meeting, what they do? Before they say anything, they got to stand up and say, my name is John Doe and I'm an alcoholic. They may not have had a drink in 10 or 20 years, but when they go to a meeting, they're going to stand up and say, my name is John Doe and I'm an alcoholic. Why? Because they have to acknowledge their true condition before they can get better. So when we come to the Most High, we have to acknowledge, my name is Gabar Sadat. I am a sinner. And I need your spirit of righteousness or I won't make it. And he gives it to us. And that spirit causes us to have power. And somebody was talking to somebody about it this week. And this is how it works. Let's go back to the alcoholic. Okay? They're having a problem with the wine for a long time, right? Overdoing it with their hard liquor. Then lost jobs and family and everything based on getting drunk. And wants to stop. Wants desperately to stop. Get to rock bottom and say, I'm an alcoholic. That's step one. I'm an alcoholic. I got a problem. And I want to overcome this problem. So they go to the Father. I need your spirit of righteousness to cause me to overcome my problem. I'm an alcoholic. I need you to help me. The Father gives him the power right there. Gives him the grace right there to overcome. But it ain't over. Not by a long sight. No. It ain't over. What happens next? So the man is experiencing victory. He's walking in victory. He's rejoicing in the victory that the Father has given him. He feels it in his own soul, in his own person. All of a sudden, he gets some bad news. His daughter died. His daughter was killed. Tragic. Young woman, life snatched away. And he is sad. He doesn't understand why it happened. And something comes to him and says like this, damn, I need a drink. I'm sad. Surely the Most High understand. I need a drink. I want to tell you right now, that's not the man saying that. When you hear voices like that, it's not you. Oh, it fits you like a glove because he's an alcoholic. But our Satan is permitted to whisper in your ear. Yes, he is. He's permitted to come at you like that. Because for us to overcome for real, we got to be able to stand up against that. So now at that moment, I want to drink. I could smell it. I could taste it. And I halfway thinking about getting up and I stand up to head to my favorite liquor store to get my favorite drink because I'm sad. But then I realize another voice comes and I have a choice. The choice is, can I call upon my Father's righteousness right now to stop me from doing what I want to do or not? If he chooses in his sorrow to call upon his Father and say, Father, I don't want to do this. Please help me. Right there, the power will come and he won't do it. How do I know this? I've experienced it. I've never been an alcoholic, but I've had my own sin problems, as all of us have. And he has delivered me just like that. And that won't be the last battle. There'll be others to follow. But every time you call upon the Father, he'll deliver you. Then once you have experienced, in that case, the alcoholism has been overcome, and now you know you can call upon the Father and you're not drinking now. What happens now? Other things are brought out that you didn't know about. You see, we think that the main problem that's in the front of us that we've been seeing for all these years is our only problem. If we could just overcome that, we won't have no more problems. No, that's just the most prominent one. Other things come out for myself, I didn't realize how much of an anger problem I had until after I came to the Most High. How angry I really was, and how deep-seated it was, and how other people could see it on me when I didn't realize. My children would come later and say, yeah, a certain look would come over you, and I didn't want to talk to you. I was scared. My wife would say the same thing. And I asked the Most High, show me this, and he did. And I had to fall several times before I admitted that I had a problem with anger. It still comes to me, and I still call upon the Most High so that I don't snap at my wife or my children or anybody, though I'm tempted to. See? So when I ask him for his righteousness, he gives me. And then many times, when I would normally be upset, I feel peace come over me. Many times. And I just smile because I know that's him. Because it's not me. It's the same with any sin in any situation. Any sin. And that's why righteousness by faith, or justification by faith, also the Bible calls it, is the most important doctrine, because that causes us to overcome our sin and render obedience to the Father. Now, in Revelation 7, we just read that the 144,000 are 12 tribes of Israel. That's important to know, because going forward, it's these 144,000 that are first going to give this message of an awakening to the scattered folks that are descendants of slaves, and then to the Gentiles as well. It's already begun. Let's take a look at Revelation chapter 14 now. Now, if you recall, I just mentioned in Revelation 7 that John heard the number of the 144. He did not see them because they didn't exist. But in Revelation 14, they do exist. And I want to show you this pattern. In Revelation 14, it follows the pattern of Revelation 13, which follows the pattern of Revelation 15, which follows the pattern also of Revelation chapter 17 and chapter 19. You say, what pattern is that? This is the pattern. Something is shown in its completed state. And then the following after that is shown how it got to that completed state. Okay, so in Revelation 13, you see a beast that has 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns. Revelation 13:1, you see that, right? Crowns on the horn. And then, so the rest of it is showing you how it got to this royal estate. Revelation 14 starts off like this. Revelation chapter 14, I'm going to read Revelation 14 and begin at verse 1. Revelation 14 and verse 1. And lo, I looked, and lo, a lamb stood upon Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. Again, this is more than just a theoretical name. This is the sealing of a righteous character by the Father's spirit of righteousness, because these people have surrendered themselves to the perfect righteousness of the Father. They have admitted that they are sinners, and they're always going to be sinners unless they receive this seal, which is what they have gotten right here. I want you to notice he looked and saw them, because now they're standing on Mount Zion with Messiah. They exist. Now, the rest of this chapter 14 is going to show how did they get to Mount Zion to stand on Mount Zion with Messiah, because that's obviously in the kingdom. They're standing on Mount Zion with the Messiah. They're in the kingdom. Well, how did that come to pass? How did they get to the point of getting into the kingdom? What had to happen prior to that? That's the rest of the chapter. Okay. Chapter 15 is very similar. You start off seeing the 7 last plagues, angels hold them. Then you'll see a whole bunch of people standing on